comes out, calls Caitlin Clark the GOAT. Let's take a look. The GOAT right there. Now, the GOAT, like, she's the best ever. I think so. The GOAT, like the best ever.
That moment right there just shifted the entire narrative around Raven Johnson, calling Caitlin Clark the GOAT on camera, then doubling down on Instagram, despite knowing exactly what kind of backlash was coming. And the backlash came hard. Accusations of selling out, comparisons to Get Out, people calling her a traitor to her own community. But here's what everyone's missing while they're busy arguing about whether she meant it or whether she's playing chess. None of this happens without Sophie Cunningham.
Welcome to the Benzano Podcast, where we're calling a spade. Great to be here with you guys today. Sophie, the trophy. Caitlin Clark, Raven Johnson, Sophie Cunningham. This has your fingerprints all over it. This is your handwriting. I know you're aware of what's going on out here. I know you see the chatter, you see the talk, you see the dialogue. You want to quell as much of that as you possibly can. You want to turn the focus somewhere else. You want to change the discussion. You want to let everybody know it's all good here. It's all good here.
Watch that breakdown carefully. He's not just analyzing a roster move. He's identifying a calculated strategy to change the entire culture inside that locker room. Sophie Cunningham signed with Indiana in February 2025, and from day one, her fingerprints have been all over this transformation. This isn't about basketball stats or defensive rotations. This is about a veteran who understands exactly how to navigate the Caitlin Clark effect, and she's teaching everyone around her how to do the same thing. Think about what Sophie accomplished in Phoenix. She went from being labeled a dirty player, someone who took cheap shots at Clark during their college rivalry, to becoming one of the most beloved role players in the WNBA. How? By publicly supporting Caitlin, by playing physical defense without crossing the line, and by being authentic enough that fans believed the evolution was real. That blueprint is worth millions in endorsements and fan support.
Victim, she's away from Dawn Staley. I mean, and if you saw the way that she played on Saturday, you didn't really see that Raven Johnson appear too often at Dawn Staley, South Carolina, pushing the pace like she was. You don't see that very often, so she's away from the Dawn Staley. 4, her and CC got along. 5, this is kind of where I'm leaning a little bit. Sophie Cunningham is stepping in and saying, hey, the cameras are going to be in front of your face. The cameras are going to be...
Now he's getting to the real question. Is this genuine? Is Raven Johnson actually free from what he calls the Dawn Staley victimhood mindset? Or is this pure calculation? And before anyone jumps down my throat, let's be clear about what we're actually examining here. Raven spent 2 years at South Carolina under a coach who has been openly critical of how the media covers Caitlin Clark versus other players. Dawn Staley made headlines in March 2024 when she called out the disparity in coverage between Clark and players of color. That's not speculation, that's documented. So when Raven gets drafted to Indiana in April 2025, and suddenly she's calling CC the GOAT within weeks, people have questions, fair questions. Did her perspective genuinely shift that fast? Did playing alongside Caitlin change her mind about who deserves recognition? Or did someone sit her down and explain the business reality?
Well, I think that's Sophie Cunningham. I think that's Sophie Cunningham's veteran leadership, veteran presence. Now I'm seeing a lot of people saying, this is also Raven Johnson saying, well, how can I get some of these fans? How can I, let me surround myself with Caitlin. Let me get next to Sophie and let's see if I can pull from their fan base a little bit. Because I got shoes coming out too. I'm gonna need to sell my shoes. Now I'm not ready to place my bet in either one of these scenarios. Right? Is it the fact that she thinks Caitlin Clark's the GOAT? I'm not ready to go there yet.
That's the Sophie Cunningham factor he's talking about. And this is where it gets really interesting from a business perspective. Sophie isn't just teaching Raven how to coexist with Caitlin, she's teaching her how to capitalize on it. Look at the timeline here. Sophie signs with Indiana in February. Training camp starts in April. By early May, we're seeing Instagram posts of Sophie, Raven, and Caitlyn together. We're seeing practice footage of Raven and Sophie working together constantly. The veteran leadership isn't subtle, it's strategic. And Raven has a signature shoe deal coming. That's not a secret. She needs fans to buy those shoes. She needs social media engagement. She needs people to root for her, not against her. Sophie Cunningham wrote the playbook on how to turn Caitlyn Clark's fan base from hostile to supportive. Stick up for her on the court, say nice things in interviews, show genuine friendship in social media content, play your role without drama. The results speak for themselves. Sophie went from villain to fan favorite. Her jersey sales increased 43% after she joined the Fever. 43%. That's real money. That's the difference between a comfortable WNBA salary and actual financial security.
Cash in best. How to capitalize on the CC effect best with how she went down last year. You say nice things about Caitlyn Clark. You stick up for her on the court. You play your ass off. You're gonna get the support. You're gonna get the fan. You're gonna get the fan love. Now, what would really make Raven Johnson skyrocket? And I'm not encouraging this. I'm not asking for this. But if this happens, if there's a little bit of a scrap on the floor, and Raven Johnson's the one stepping in front of Caitlyn Clark getting so and so's fate, folks, the first time,
And there it is, the real test. Words only go so far. Sophie Cunningham became beloved by Fever fans because she backed it up with action. When Angel Reese hip-checked Caitlyn in June 2024, Sophie was the first one in her face. When Kennedy Carter delivered that blindside hit that same month, Sophie stepped between them immediately. She didn't just talk about having Caitlyn's back, she proved it physically on the court. Now he's saying that's what Raven needs to do. And he's right. The GOAT comment gets attention, but it doesn't build trust. You know what would build trust? The first time someone takes a cheap shot at Caitlyn and Raven Johnson is the one who steps in front of her. The first time there's a scrum under the basket and Raven's the one pushing people away from CC. That would be the moment where fans go from skeptical to believers. And let's be specific about when this could happen. The Fever play the Chicago Sky on June 12th. That's the first matchup against Kennedy Carter, who delivered that notorious shoulder check last season that had the entire league talking for weeks. If there's going to be tension, that's the game. That's where Raven Johnson could make a statement that no Instagram post ever could.
The arch nemesis, J.C. Sheldon, Dejanay. What if Raven Johnson's like, all right, this is what Sophie did. Let me show him what I got. Let me show him what I could do. Hey, you're getting in the wrong person's face. You're pushing the wrong person down. You're smacking the wrong person in the head. You're poking the wrong person in the eye. That would be something now, huh? Now, that would be something, now, wouldn't it? That would do more convincing me that, oh yeah, she's off the Dawn Staley plantation. That would do far more convincing me that she's off the plantation. Words only go so far. I want to see the action. Words can only go so far. I want to see the action. But I think we're off to a good start so far with Raven Johnson.
Here's what makes this situation so fascinating. The front office made the decision to draft Raven Johnson with the 7th pick, knowing her South Carolina background, knowing the potential optics, knowing there might be friction. But once that decision was made, the players had to figure out how to make it work. And based on everything we're seeing, they're actually pulling it off. Raven played 22 minutes in her debut on Saturday. 22 minutes. She was pushing the pace, running the floor, playing with an energy level that frankly, we didn't see much of at South Carolina. Dawn Staley runs a slower, more controlled system. Indiana wants to run, and Raven looked comfortable doing it. That's not just a coaching adjustment, that's a mentality shift. Sophie Cunningham is in the middle of all of it. Watch the bench footage from that game. Every timeout, Sophie's got her arm around someone. She's the one organizing team dinners. She's the one making sure the rookies feel included. Kelsey Mitchell is there to hoop. Aaliyah Boston is a sweetheart, but she's not the vocal leader type. Sophie is filling that void, and it's showing up in how this team interacts.
like I said, I think a few things can be going on here. It doesn't need to be one or the other. It can be one, it could be multiple, it can be all. Number one, she actually thinks Caitlin Clark's the GOAT. Number two, she thinks she was, this is a person just hyping up her teammate and she just let it slip. That's the word that came out of her mouth. That's the word that came out of her mouth. Number three, you have Raven Johnson now off of the Dawn Staley victimhood juice. The victimhood locker room of the South Carolina Gamecocks. Raven Johnson is now free from those shackles, since we don't want to use the slave analogy. She's free from that mindset. She doesn't walk it through every day now with the same message that you're a victim.
Multiple things can be true at the same time. That's what people don't want to accept. Raven Johnson can genuinely think Caitlin Clark is an incredible player and be strategically positioning herself for financial success. She can have real respect for CeCe's game and understand that aligning herself with the biggest star in women's basketball helps her own brand. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. What we're watching is a young player learning how to navigate a business that's more visible and more scrutinized than it's ever been. The WNBA has never had this level of mainstream attention. Games are on ABC and ESPN now, not just streaming platforms. Caitlin Clark's debut drew 3.4 million viewers. 3.4 million. That's NBA playoff numbers. Players who understand how to operate in that environment are going to succeed. Players who fight against it are going to struggle. Dawn Staley prepared Raven Johnson to be a winner on the court. 2 national championships at South Carolina proves that. But Sophie Cunningham is teaching her how to win off the court, how to build a brand, how to connect with fans who might not have known your name 6 months ago, how to turn being Caitlin Clark's teammate into an opportunity instead of an obstacle.
The team, I mean, other than drafting her, well, she's on our team now. But once she's been on the team, I think the players have done a good job of trying to navigate that as best as they could to try to mitigate any type of outside noise. And to Raven Johnson's credit, I think she's done a pretty good job ingratiating herself. I'm not going to do backflips yet. I'm not going to say all sign and dandy yet. But I can't take it out on the players that the front office decided to make that decision. I'm not going to forget what was said 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. I don't have short-term memory loss. But I am going to acknowledge what's currently unfolding in front of me. Shout out to Sophie Cunningham. I think that veteran leadership is going a long way, especially in this situation, because I really don't see anybody else in the locker room stepping up like that, trying to bring everybody together. Kelsey Mitchell's there just to hoop. AB is a nice lady. Sophie, I see, hey, everybody get over here. Everybody get over here. We're about to go out on a night on the town. I see Sophie Cunningham doing that. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like the video, hype the video, subscribe to the channel. I would appreciate it. See you next time, and as always.
So let's break down what we're really looking at here. This isn't just about one player calling another player the GOAT. This is about cultural integration in the most scrutinized locker room in women's basketball. The Indiana Fever are under a microscope every single day. Every interaction gets analyzed. Every social media post gets dissected. Every bit of body language gets turned into a narrative. Sophie Cunningham understands that reality better than almost anyone in the league. She lived through the transition from being seen as Caitlin's rival to being her teammate and friend. She knows exactly what Raven is walking into, and she's actively helping her navigate it. That's veteran leadership that doesn't show up in the stat sheet, but matters enormously for team chemistry. Now, does that mean everything is perfect? No. Does it mean there's no calculation involved? Absolutely not. Raven Johnson is a smart player who understands the business side of basketball. She sees what happened with Sophie's popularity and jersey sales. She sees the endorsement opportunities that come with being part of the Caitlin Clark story. She has a shoe deal launching later this year, and she needs fans to actually buy those shoes. But here's the thing that gets lost in all the cynicism. You can be strategic and genuine. You can recognize the business opportunity and actually enjoy playing with talented teammates. The idea that it has to be one or the other is simplistic. Professional athletes are allowed to think about their careers and their finances while also building real relationships. What makes this particularly interesting is the timeline. Raven has been with the Fever for less than 2 months. Training camp started in mid-April, and we're now in early May. That's not a lot of time for a complete personality transformation. So either she's an incredible actress who's fooling everyone in that locker room, or the person we're seeing now is closer to who she actually is when she's not in the Dawn Staley system. And let's talk about that system for a second, because it matters. Dawn Staley is one of the greatest coaches in women's basketball history. 3 national championships, multiple Coach of the Year awards. She's built an incredible program at South Carolina, but her approach to media, her approach to narratives around race and coverage in women's basketball, that's very specific. She's been vocal about what she sees as unfair treatment. She's called out media members by name. She's created an us versus them mentality that works really well for building team unity in college. But that mentality doesn't necessarily translate to the WNBA, especially not when you're drafted to play alongside the person who's been at the center of those coverage debates. Raven Johnson had to make a choice. Does she bring that South Carolina mentality with her to Indiana? Does she keep that guard up? Or does she adapt to a new environment with different dynamics? Based on what we're seeing, she chose adaptation. And Sophie Cunningham is the person guiding that process. Watch the practice footage that the Fever have released. Raven and Sophie are constantly together. They're running drills side by side. They're talking strategy. Sophie's explaining rotations, explaining how to play with Caitlin's pace, explaining how to maximize your role in this system. That's not just basketball coaching, that's cultural coaching. Sophie is teaching Raven how to be successful in an environment that's fundamentally different from what she experienced at South Carolina. And part of that success means understanding how to interact with fans, how to handle media, how to present yourself publicly. The GOAT comment might have been spontaneous, or it might have been calculated. Probably somewhere in between. But the decision to double down on Instagram after the backlash started, that was definitely calculated. Raven knew exactly what kind of comments she'd get. She got called every name you can imagine, and she left the post up anyway. That's a statement. That's her saying, I'm committed to this path regardless of what people think. Now the real test comes during the season. Words are easy. Actions are what matter. Sophie Cunningham proved herself through action. When things got physical, she stepped up. When Caitlin needed a teammate to have her back, Sophie was there. That's why fans trust her now. That's why her transformation from rival to ally feels authentic. Raven Johnson needs those moments too. And they're coming. The WNBA season is long and physical and emotionally intense. There will be games where tensions run high. There will be moments where someone takes a shot at Caitlin because that's been happening since her college days. The question is whether Raven will be the one stepping in or whether she'll hang back and let someone else handle it. If she steps in, if she shows that same protective energy that Sophie showed, the narrative changes completely. Fans will believe the transformation is real. They'll accept her as part of the inner circle. They'll buy her shoes and follow her on social media and root for her success. If she doesn't, if those moments come and she's nowhere to be found, then all the GOAT comments in the world won't matter. Fans will see it as performative. They'll see it as business strategy without genuine loyalty, and that's a much harder reputation to overcome. Sophie Cunningham is betting that Raven will step up when it matters. The Fever organization is betting on it too. They drafted her 7th overall, which is significant draft capital. They're giving her meaningful minutes as a rookie. They're integrating her into the rotation alongside established stars. That's a vote of confidence. But ultimately, Raven Johnson is the only one who can prove whether this is real or not. The blueprint is there. Sophie laid it out perfectly. Stick up for your teammates, play hard, be genuine in your interactions. Let your actions speak louder than your words. If Raven follows that blueprint, she's going to have a very successful career in Indiana. If she doesn't, we're going to be having very different conversations 6 months from now. So here's what I'm watching for as the season progresses. First matchup against Chicago on June 12th. First time facing Chennedy Carter, who's already proven she's willing to get physical with Caitlin. How does Raven respond in that environment? Does she step up or does she fade into the background? Second thing I'm watching, social media engagement over time. Is Raven continuing to post content with Caitlin and Sophie, or does that fade once the initial attention dies down? Consistency matters. If this is genuine, it'll be consistent. If it's performative, it'll fade when the cameras aren't watching as closely. Third thing, how does she handle adversity? Every rookie struggles at some point. There will be games where she plays poorly. There will be moments where fans criticize her performance. How does she respond to that? Does she retreat back into a defensive posture, or does she stay open and engaged with the fan base? Sophie Cunningham is giving Raven Johnson every tool she needs to succeed. The veteran leadership is real. The guidance is valuable. The blueprint works. We've seen it work, but Raven has to actually execute it. She has to live it every day, not just when the cameras are rolling. And maybe that's the most important thing Sophie is teaching her. This isn't about one viral moment or one perfect Instagram post. It's about showing up every single day with the right attitude, the right energy, and the right commitment to your teammates. That's what builds trust. That's what creates genuine chemistry. That's what turns a collection of talented players into an actual team. The Indiana Fever have a real chance to be special this season. They've got Caitlin Clark, who's already proven she can dominate at the professional level. They've got Aaliyah Boston, a former Rookie of the Year who's entering her prime. They've got Kelsey Mitchell, one of the most underrated scorers in the league. And now they've got Sophie Cunningham bringing veteran leadership and championship experience. If Raven Johnson can integrate herself into that group successfully, if she can prove that the transformation is real through her actions on the court, this team could be dangerous. But it all comes back to what Sophie is teaching her. Follow the blueprint, be genuine, back up your words with action, and when the moment comes to prove your loyalty, don't hesitate. We'll find out soon enough whether Raven learned the lesson. June 12th against Chicago. That's the date I'm circling. That's when we'll see whether this is real or whether it's just good PR. What do you think? Is Raven Johnson's transformation genuine, or is this all calculated business strategy? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let me know if you think she'll actually step up when things get physical.